Part 1, The Trap That Changed Everything. The jungle awakens. The dense jungle was alive with the sounds of chirping insects and rustling leaves. The morning sun filtered through the canopy, casting dappled light on the forest floor. In the heart of this wilderness, a man named Kale moved silently, his muscular frame gliding through the undergrowth. Kale was a former Special Forces operative, now a lone survivor on this alien planet. His sharp eyes scanned the area, his senses attuned to every movement. He had set traps the previous night, and the familiar snap of one echoed through the trees. A grin spread across his face. Breakfast was served. The unexpected catch. As Kale approached the trap site, he expected to find a small creature struggling in the net. Instead, he was met with a sight that made him freeze. Suspended in the net was a humanoid figure with shimmering silver skin and hair that seemed to glow like moonlight. Her eyes, a deep amber, locked onto his with a mixture of fear and defiance. She wore a sleek, form-fitting suit that seemed to blend with the environment, and her voice, though trembling, carried an air of authority. "Release me," she demanded, her tone sharp despite her predicament. A dangerous alliance. Kale hesitated, his instincts torn between caution and curiosity. He had been alone for years, and the appearance of another sentient being was both a threat and a potential lifeline. "Who are you?" he asked, his voice low and steady. The woman's gaze softened slightly. "I am Lyra," she replied. "A scientist from the Orion colony. I was tracking a signal when I stumbled into your trap." Kale raised an eyebrow. "A signal? Out here?" Lyra nodded. "It's ancient, possibly precursor technology. But I can't access it alone." Kale considered her words. If she was telling the truth, this could be his ticket off this planet. If not, he was walking into a trap. The first step. Kale cut the net, freeing Lyra. She landed gracefully, her movements fluid and precise. "Thank you," she said, brushing herself off. "But we don't have much time. The syndicate is also after the signal, and they're closer than you think." Kale's eyes narrowed. The syndicate was a notorious criminal organization, known for their ruthless tactics. If they were involved, this was bigger than he had imagined. "What's in it for me?" he asked. Lyra smiled faintly. "A way off this planet, and a chance to uncover secrets that could change the galaxy." Kale nodded. "Lead the way." The jungle's secrets. As they moved deeper into the jungle, Lyra explained more about the signal. It was emanating from an ancient structure buried beneath the forest floor, a relic of a long-lost civilization. The syndicate believed it held the key to ultimate power, but Lyra suspected it was something far more profound. The precursors were not conquerors, she said. They were explorers, seekers of knowledge. This structure could be a library, a repository of their wisdom. Kale listened intently, his mind racing. If the syndicate got their hands on this, the consequences would be catastrophic. A race against time. The sound of distant engines broke the silence. Kale and Lyra exchanged a glance. The syndicate had arrived. "We need to move faster," Kale said, his voice tense. Lyra nodded, her expression grim. They quickened their pace, the jungle closing in around them. The air grew thicker, the vegetation denser. Kale's training kicked in, his senses heightened as he scanned for threats. Lyra moved with surprising agility, her silver skin glinting in the filtered sunlight. The first encounter. They reached a clearing just as a syndicate patrol emerged from the trees. Kale's hand went to his weapon, but Lyra stopped him. "Wait," she whispered. "Let me handle this." Before Kale could protest, Lyra stepped forward, her body glowing faintly. The syndicate soldiers froze, their weapons lowering as if compelled by an unseen force. Kale watched in awe as Lyra's eyes flashed, and the soldiers collapsed to the ground, unconscious. What the hell was that? Kale asked, his voice filled with disbelief. Lyra turned to him, her expression unreadable. A gift from the precursors, she said simply. Now, let's keep moving. The edge of discovery. As they approached the structure, the ground beneath them began to vibrate. The air was charged with energy, and the jungle seemed to hold its breath. Kale felt a strange pull, as if the structure was calling to him. Lyra's eyes met his, and he saw the same realization in her gaze. They were on the brink of something extraordinary. But as they stepped into the shadow of the ancient ruins, a voice echoed through the trees. "You're too late," it said, cold and mocking. Kale and Lyra turned to see a figure emerge from the shadows, his face obscured by a syndicate helmet. "The signal belongs to us now. The trap springs." Before Kale could react, the ground beneath them gave way, and they tumbled into darkness. The last thing Kale saw was Lyra's glowing eyes, filled with determination, as they fell into the unknown. Part 2, The Depths of the Unknown. The Descent. Kale and Lyra fell through the darkness, the air rushing past them as they plummeted into the depths of the ancient structure. Kale's training kicked in, and he twisted his body, trying to orient himself. He reached out, grasping for anything to slow their descent. His hand brushed against a rough surface, and he dug his fingers in, his muscles straining as he tried to stop their fall. Lyra's glowing form was just below him, her silver skin casting a faint light in the darkness. A glimmer of hope. Kale's grip held, and he managed to slow their descent enough to avoid a fatal impact. They landed on a narrow ledge, the ground beneath them trembling from the force of their fall. Kale's heart pounded in his chest as he looked down into the abyss below. "Are you okay?" he asked, his voice tight with concern. Lyra nodded, her amber eyes glowing in the dim light. "I'm fine," she said, though her voice was strained. "But we need to keep moving. The syndicate won't be far behind." The ancient chamber. The ledge led to a narrow passage, the walls lined with intricate carvings that seemed to pulse with a faint energy. Kale ran his fingers over the surface, feeling the hum of power beneath his touch. "This place is alive," he murmured, his voice filled with awe. Lyra nodded, her expression serious. The precursors were masters of energy manipulation. This structure is a testament to their ingenuity. A dangerous path. As they moved deeper into the structure, the air grew colder, and the walls seemed to close in around them. The passage was narrow, forcing them to move single file. Kale took the lead, his senses on high alert. The syndicate's presence loomed over them, a constant threat that kept them moving forward. The first test. The passage opened into a large chamber, the walls lined with glowing symbols that shifted and changed as they watched. In the center of the room was a pedestal, atop which rested a glowing orb. Lyra's eyes lit up with excitement. "This is it," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "The key to the precursor's knowledge." But as they approached the pedestal, the ground beneath them began to shift, and the walls started to close in. A race against time. Kale and Lyra exchanged a glance, their hearts pounding as they realized the chamber was a trap. The walls were moving, slowly but surely, closing in on them. Kale's mind raced as he searched for a way out. "We need to activate the orb," Lyra said, her voice urgent. "It's the only way to stop this." Kale nodded, his eyes scanning the room for any clues. The solution. The symbols on the walls seemed to pulse with energy, and Kale realized they were part of a puzzle. He moved quickly, his fingers tracing the patterns as he tried to decipher their meaning. Lyra watched intently, her mind working alongside his. "There," she said, pointing to a specific symbol. "That's the key." Kale pressed the symbol, and the orb on the pedestal began to glow brighter. The walls stopped moving, and the chamber was filled with a soft, golden light. A new threat. But their relief was short-lived. The sound of footsteps echoed through the chamber, and Kale turned to see a group of Syndicate soldiers entering the room. Their weapons were drawn, and their leader, a tall man with a scar across his face, stepped forward. "You've led us right to it," he said, his voice filled with malice. "Now hand over the orb, and we might let you live." The standoff. Kale and Lyra stood their ground, their eyes locked on the Syndicate soldiers. Kale's hand went to his weapon, but Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "Wait," she whispered. "Let me handle this." Kale hesitated, but nodded, trusting her instincts. Lyra stepped forward, her body glowing with a faint silver light. The Syndicate soldiers hesitated, their weapons lowering as if compelled by an unseen force. The power within. Lyra's eyes flashed, and the soldiers collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Kale watched in awe as she turned to him, her expression unreadable. "We need to move," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "The Syndicate won't stop until they have the orb." Kale nodded, his mind racing as they moved deeper into the structure. The heart of the structure. The passage led to a massive chamber, the walls lined with glowing symbols that pulsed with energy. In the center of the room was a massive console, atop which rested the glowing orb. Lyra's eyes lit up with excitement. "This is it," she said, her voice filled with wonder. The heart of the precursor's knowledge. The final test. But as they approached the console, the ground beneath them began to shift, and the walls started to close in. Kale and Lyra exchanged a glance, their hearts pounding as they realized the chamber was a trap. The walls were moving, slowly but surely, closing in on them. Kale's mind raced as he searched for a way out. The key to survival. The symbols on the walls seemed to pulse with energy, and Kale realized they were part of a puzzle. He moved quickly, his fingers tracing the patterns as he tried to decipher their meaning. Lyra watched intently, her mind working alongside his. "There," she said, pointing to a specific symbol. "That's the key." Kale pressed the symbol, and the orb on the pedestal began to glow brighter. The walls stopped moving, and the chamber was filled with a soft, golden light. A new beginning. But their relief was short-lived. The sound of footsteps echoed through the chamber, and Kale turned to see a group of Syndicate soldiers entering the room. Their weapons were drawn, and their leader, a tall man with a scar across his face, stepped forward. "You've led us right to it," he said, his voice filled with malice. "Now hand over the orb, and we might let you live." The final stand. Kale and Lyra stood their ground, their eyes locked on the Syndicate soldiers. Kale's hand went to his weapon, but Lyra placed a hand on his arm. "Wait," she whispered. "Let me handle this." Kale hesitated, but nodded, trusting her instincts. Lyra stepped forward, her body glowing with a faint silver light. The Syndicate soldiers hesitated, their weapons lowering as if compelled by an unseen force. The power within. Lyra's eyes flashed, and the soldiers collapsed to the ground, unconscious. Kale watched in awe as she turned to him, her expression unreadable. "We need to move," she said, her voice filled with urgency. "The Syndicate won't stop until they have the orb." Kale nodded, his mind racing as they moved deeper into the structure. The heart of the structure. The passage led to a massive chamber, the walls lined with glowing symbols that pulsed with energy. In the center of the room was a massive console, atop which rested the glowing orb. Lyra's eyes lit up with excitement. "This is it," she said, her voice filled with wonder. The heart of the precursor's knowledge. Part 3, Revelations and Pursuers. The ship suddenly lurched, ancient engines humming to life. Holographic controls materialized around them, responding to their presence. The vessel was awakening fully, its systems recognizing both Jace's guardian genetics and Nyara's living map. "Warning," an artificial voice announced. "Multiple hostile vessels detected entering orbit. Concordiate battle fleet identified." "They're not just after us," Nyara realized. They're after this ship. Her neural implant sparked, causing her to stumble into Jace's arms. The contact sent electricity through them both, and the ship's systems pulsed in response. Jace caught her, pulling her close. Their bodies fit together perfectly, and despite the danger, desire flared between them. The ship's lights dimmed responsively, creating an intimate atmosphere. The ship, Nyara gasped, her hands exploring his bare chest. It's responding to our connection. The precursors must have designed it to be piloted by paired beings, one guardian, one map-bearer. The stronger our bond, the stronger the ship, Jace finished, claiming her lips in a passionate kiss. The vessel systems surged with power, responding to their intimate contact. Their passion consumed them there in the heart of the ancient ship. Each touch, each caress seemed to awaken more systems, more power. The vessel protected their privacy, sealing off their section and maintaining perfect environmental conditions as they expressed their growing feelings physically. Later, as they lay intertwined on the surprisingly comfortable floor, the ship's AI announced, all primary systems online. Battle capabilities at maximum efficiency. Jace traced the glowing patterns on Nyara's skin. So, we have a fully armed precursor warship, a Concordiate battle fleet in orbit, and my captured team on the ground. Ideas? Nyara smiled mischievously. The Concordiate expects a trapped, desperate pair running scared. They don't know we have a warship that responds to. She kissed him deeply, making the ship's lights flare. Intimate contact. We could rescue Echo Team and protect the Nexus, Jace mused, returning her kiss. But we'll need a plan. The ship's weapons are beyond anything the Concordiate has, Nyara said, her golden eyes gleaming. And I think I know how to use them. Remember how you thought I was breakfast this morning? Jace grinned. And now we're going to serve the Concordiate their own surprise meal. Exactly, she purred, pulling him close again. But not like they'd expect. The precursor ship's control room hummed with energy as Jace and Nyara studied the holographic display showing both the Concordiate fleet in orbit and the ground forces holding Echo Team. Their bare skin gleamed with sweat from their recent ship calibration session, as Nyara had playfully termed their intimate moments. The ship's AI has confirmed it can split into two synchronized vessels, Nyara said, her azure fingers dancing through the holographic controls. One for the orbital battle, one for the ground rescue. Jace wrapped his arms around her from behind, making the ship's systems pulse brighter. But we'd have to separate. Would the ship still function at full power? The bond we've created has saturated the ship's systems, she explained, leaning back against his chest. It should maintain power for approximately 1 hour after separation, more than enough time for what I have planned. And what exactly do you have planned? Jace asked, his beard tickling her neck. Nyara turned in his arms, her golden eyes sparkling with mischief. Remember your trap this morning? Sometimes the best way to catch prey is to let them think they've caught you instead. The plan came together quickly. The ship would split, with Nyara taking the orbital section to confront the Concordiate fleet. She would appear to be fleeing, drawing their ships into position. Meanwhile, Jace would use the ground section's stealth capabilities to approach the Concordiate base where Echo Team was held. The neural link we've established will let us coordinate perfectly, Nyara said, helping Jace into a set of precursor battle armor the ship had fabricated. Her fingers lingered on his chest. Though I must admit, I'll miss the view. Focus on the mission, beautiful, Jace grinned, pulling her close for a passionate kiss. Save that thought for the victory celebration. The ship's AI interrupted their moment. Separation sequence initiating. Please proceed to your designated sections. They held each other's gaze for a long moment. What had started as a chance encounter in a trap had become something neither of them had expected, something worth fighting for. Careful up there, Jace said softly. I'd hate to have to explain to the precursors how I lost their ship and their map bearer in one day. You be careful too, Nyara replied, her voice husky. "I have plans for that trap of yours later." They shared one final fierce kiss before separating to their positions. The ship divided smoothly, ancient machinery working flawlessly. Jace felt the neural link snap into place. He could sense Nyara's presence in his mind, their connection transcending physical distance. Through their link, he watched as Nyara's section burst from the jungle canopy, immediately drawing fire from the Concordiate fleet. She piloted with incredible skill, making the ancient vessel dance through space like a leaf in the wind, Concordiate vessels pursuing her. "They're completely focused on me," her thoughts echoed in his mind. "You're clear to proceed." Jace guided his section of the ship toward the Concordiate base, its stealth systems rendering it invisible. Through their connection, he felt Nyara's exhilaration as she led the enemy fleet on a wild chase through the planet's rings. "You're enjoying this too much," he thought to her, smiling as he felt her mental laugh. "Can you blame me? Their finest ships can't touch this old girl. The precursors knew how to build them." Jace reached the Concordiate base, using the ship's sensors to locate Echo Team. They were held in a high-security cell block, heavily guarded. "Beginning ground assault," he communicated. "Time to show them why humans are the galaxy's apex predators. Show them how it's done, my magnificent beast," Nyara's thoughts purred in his mind. "But remember, you're not the only one who knows how to set a trap." The next few minutes were chaos. Jace used the ship's weapons to create precise distractions while he infiltrated the base. The Concordiate forces, already confused by Nyara's space battle, were completely unprepared for a ground assault. Through their neural link, Jace and Nyara coordinated their attacks perfectly. As she drew the fleet into the planet's magnetic pole, temporarily disrupting their systems, he freed Echo Team and led them back to the ship. "Ready for the final act?" Nyara's thoughts came with a wave of anticipation. "Just like we planned," Jace replied, securing Echo Team in the ship's hold. "Let's serve them breakfast." Major Harrison's voice cut through the victory celebrations aboard Jace's section of the ship. "Colonel, we've got a situation. The Concordiate planted a quantum bomb in their base. If it detonates, it'll tear apart the planet's core." Through their neural link, Jace felt Nyara's immediate concern. Her section of the ship was still engaging the last of the Concordiate fleet in orbit. "How long?" Jace demanded, already moving toward the control interface. 20 minutes, Harrison replied grimly. "And it's tied into their central computer. Any attempt to hack or disarm it remotely triggers immediate detonation." "Nyara," Jace thought through their connection, "I need to go back." Her response came with a wave of determination. "I'm coming down. We do this together." "No," he countered, sending her mental images of the Concordiate ship still in orbit. "Keep them occupied. We can't let them escape to try this again somewhere else." Their neural link thrummed with shared emotions, fear, determination, and something deeper that had grown between them since that morning's encounter in the trap. Jace felt Nyara's reluctance to separate further, but also her understanding. "Fine," she thought back, her mental voice thick with emotion. "But you better survive this, my magnificent beast. I still haven't shown you all my tricks." The ship's AI spoke up. "Analysis complete. The quantum bomb signature matches precursor containment technology. It appears the Concordiate attempted to weaponize an ancient power source. Can we contain it?" Jace asked, already guiding his section of the ship back toward the base. "Affirmative. This vessel's systems include emergency containment protocols. However, they require direct physical interface with the device." Jace turned to Echo Team. "Get to minimum safe distance. I'll handle this." "Like hell," Harrison growled. "We're not leaving you again, Colonel." "That's an order, Major." "Besides," Jace grinned, "I've got a date later." Through their link, he felt Nyara's appreciation of his confidence, even as she executed a complex maneuver that destroyed 2 more Concordiate ships. Her thoughts carried a promise of pleasure to come that made his blood heat despite the danger. Jace landed near the base and sprinted inside, guided by the ship's scans. The bomb pulsed with ominous energy in the central chamber, its countdown displaying just under 10 minutes. "I'm at the device," he communicated to both Nyara and the ship's AI. "Talk me through this." Part 4, Desperate Measures. The 2 sections of the precursor ship reunited in orbit, bringing Jace and Nyara back together. The reunion was passionate, their neural link amplifying every touch, every sensation. The ship's systems hummed in harmony with their connection, creating a cocoon of privacy for their intimate celebration of survival. Afterward, as they lay entwined in the ship's customized rest chamber, Major Harrison's urgent voice came through the comm system. "Colonel, we've received an emergency transmission from Earth. The Concordiate, they've launched a full-scale invasion." Jace sat up, his warrior instincts instantly alert. Through their neural link, Nyara felt his surge of protective fury for his home world. The ship's displays activated, showing tactical data from Earth. The situation was dire. The Concordiate had deployed their entire remaining fleet. "They're not just after the Nexus anymore," Nyara realized, studying the patterns. "They're trying to capture Earth's population, billions of potential genetic markers for precursor technology." "Like me," Jace growled, pulling on his armor. "They want to create an army of guardians they can control." Nyara's azure skin pulsed with determination as she interfaced with the ship's systems. The Nexus could stop them. The map fragment from the bomb showed its location clearly, but "We can't reach both in time," Jace said, his thoughts troubled. "Earth or the Nexus, we have to choose." Nyara smiled mysteriously, her golden eyes gleaming. "Do we? Remember what you thought when you found me in your trap this morning? Sometimes breakfast isn't what you expect." She brought up a holographic display of the precursor ship specifications. The quantum bomb wasn't just a weapon, it was a key. Its containment created a resonance pattern that matches the Nexus's energy signature. "We can use that to create a quantum tunnel, a shortcut through space." Jace raised an eyebrow. "That's possible? With our bond powering the ship? Anything's possible." She pressed against him, their neural link sparking with shared excitement. "We can reach the Nexus, activate it, and still make it to Earth in time to spring our own trap on the Concordiate." Echo Team volunteered to coordinate Earth's defenses while Jace and Nyara pursued their daring plan. The precursor ship accelerated toward the coordinates revealed by the map fragment, its ancient engines pushed to maximum power by the energy of their connection. "The Nexus is hidden in a quantum fold," Nyara explained as they approached. "Only a bonded pair can perceive its true location." She guided Jace's hands to the ship's control interface. "Feel it with me." Their minds merged through the neural link, their shared consciousness expanding beyond normal spacetime. The quantum fold shimmered into view, a twisted knot in reality hiding something vast and powerful, ready to serve the Concordiate their final breakfast. Jace grinned, sending back images of their first meeting in the trap. "As long as it's not what they're expecting." They guided the ship into the quantum fold, their bond keeping the ancient vessel stable as reality twisted around them. The Nexus waited at the center, not a weapon or a power source, but something far more profound. "It's a transformation engine," Nyara breathed, her skin patterns glowing in resonance with the massive structure. "The precursors created it to elevate worthy species to the next stage of evolution. And they chose humans as potential candidates." Jace realized, that's why they encoded the Guardian genetics into our DNA. Through their neural link, they both understood what needed to be done. Their intimate bond had proven humanity's worth, not through conquest or dominance, but through connection, protection, and love. The transformation began, the Nexus responding to their combined presence. Energy coursed through the ship, through their joined bodies and minds. The quantum bomb's containment field acted as a focus, creating a cascade effect that would reach every human in the galaxy, Earth first. Jace thought, and Nyara agreed. The Nexus's power followed their will, quantum tunneling across space to their besieged home world. The transformation wave swept across Earth like a golden tide, humanity evolving in ways that defied conventional understanding. Through their neural link, Jace and Nyara watched as the Concordiate fleet found itself facing an awakened species. The invasion crumbled as transformed humans instinctively accessed abilities they'd never known they possessed. "Now that's what I call serving breakfast," Jace grinned, pulling Nyara close, their intimate connection humming through the ship's systems, maintaining the quantum tunnel's stability. But their victory celebration was cut short as space itself seemed to ripple around them. Massive vessels, far more advanced than even their precursor ship, emerged from dimensional folds they couldn't begin to comprehend. The precursors, Nyara breathed, her azure skin pulsing with awe. "They've returned." A voice resonated through their minds, ancient and powerful. "You have activated the Nexus transformation protocol without authorization. Prepare for evaluation." Jace felt Nyara's fear through their link, but also her fierce determination. They'd faced too much together to back down now. Their neural connection deepened as they embraced, drawing strength from each other. "Evaluation?" Jace projected his thoughts. "We just saved Earth from becoming a genetic farm for the Concordiate. I'd say that proves humanity's worth." "Worthiness is not determined by a single action," the voice responded. "Show us how you discovered the Nexus. Show us your path." Images flooded their joined consciousness, the trap in the jungle, their first meeting, every moment that had led them here. The precursors observed in silence as their story unfolded. "Fascinating," the ancient voice finally declared. "You began as predator and prey, yet chose connection over coercion. You wielded our technology not through force, but through intimacy and trust." Another consciousness joined the conversation, equally vast. The Guardian genetics were meant to create warriors, instead, they created protectors. The map bearer was meant to be a tool, instead, she became a partner. Jace felt Nyara's emotions surge through their link. "Everything changed because he chose to cut me free instead of treating me like breakfast," she projected. Humanity's strength isn't in their power to destroy, but in their capacity to surprise, to choose the unexpected path. The precursor minds seemed to confer around them, their massive ships moving in patterns that hurt to look at, as if reconfiguring space itself. "We left the Nexus as a test," they explained. "Many species found it. Some tried to use it as a weapon, others ignored it out of fear. You are the first to understand its true purpose, the elevation of consciousness through connection." Energy coursed through the quantum tunnel, and Jace and Nyara found themselves transported to a vast chamber within the largest precursor vessel. Their ship came with them, its systems still harmonizing with their bond. "Your physical intimacy powers our technology because it represents the ultimate form of trust and connection," the precursors continued. "You have proven that humanity is ready not just for transformation, but for partnership." Through their neural link, Jace and Nyara shared a moment of perfect understanding. This was bigger than either of them had imagined when they'd met in that jungle trap. "Partnership?" Jace asked, though he already suspected the answer. "We did not merely leave, we evolved beyond physical form. But the universe needs active guardians, species who can maintain balance while continuing to grow. Humanity, guided by their capacity for unexpected connections, can fill this role." Nyara's golden eyes met Jace's. "And my people? We were created to bear the map, to guide the worthy to this moment," the precursors assured them. "Your species will continue to evolve alongside humanity. Your union proves the potential of such partnerships."